Have you ever been told that in order to succeed at something, you need a really strong why? Or perhaps similarly, have you ever heard that the reason you didn't reach a goal or succeed at something was because your why wasn't strong enough? Today, we are going to discuss why even having a very strong, emotionally connected why is insufficient to create space and expansion for growth, along with what you can do to remedy the problem. I'm Clark Korb, a holistic health practitioner offering some pragmatic insights to help you live a happier, more empowered life and embody your optimum potential. So, this topic is really a follow on from last week's video I did on expanding your capacity for growth. So, just doing a quick recap of that video, there are 5 basic requirements I identified for growth. 1 is having a safe and hospitable environment. 2 is having nutrients from which to form basic building blocks. 3 is a blueprint for an action plan. 4 is agents of action. And 5 is space in which to expand. And in the context of personal growth, I made 3 key distinctions. 1 being evaluating your limiting beliefs around the concept of growth. This is really part of those basic building blocks, our belief systems. The second key distinction was recognizing the ability for our capacities to grow nonlinearly in time. And this relates to the action plan, setting the stage to account for compounding methods of efficiency that can help us accelerate our action plan in linear time. And the third key distinction was using reason to create new space in which to expand, that fifth component of growth, or alternatively, creating a vacuum for energy and resources to flow. And today's discussion is going to elaborate more on this third distinction, using a reason to create room for expansion. And in the analogy for growth, keep in mind that this room for expansion is essentially the required working area, or the playground, as I like to think of it, for the elements of action and work to be set into motion. In the previous video, I gave an example of a fish that grows relative to the size of its tank. Another pretty practical example would be thinking of a factory. If the factory is looking to expand its production capacity, it needs additional space and additional equipment to boost its throughput meaningfully. And this is not the same thing as improving the efficiency of the existing line, which is definitely a good thing to do, perhaps through improved tools or training of the people working on the manufacturing line, but it's unlikely to produce the kind of boost that you would get by expanding production of the line altogether. Ideally, you do both, improve the efficiency of the current process and expand and grow it. As that analogy applies here in the realm of personal growth and development, a key element which initiates this room for expansion is identifying the desire for doing so. In other words, the why, the reason why whatever you're doing or the area that you want to grow is important. The drawing forth of desire, or why you want something, is literally the first step of manifestation in many teachings. And a great exercise that was given to me by a mentor once was determine whatever it is that you want, whether it's a job, a house, a relationship, a certain amount of money, whatever it is. Ask yourself the question, what will this give me that I don't already have? And then based on this answer, repeat the same question. Well, what will this new thing that I've identified give me that I don't already have? And then you keep iterating on this exercise until you reach an emotional core response. This is a wonderful exercise for generating an emotionally connected why, and it's a great start. This puts you in touch with your desire for manifesting whatever it is you want to manifest, more than just daydreaming, like, oh, it would be nice if. That's a little bit too emotionally disconnected. Going through this exercise of determining a deep, emotionally connected why connects you to your passion and your purpose for the goal in question. The problem with the why, and why your why isn't enough, the title of the video, is that it's still abstract. It lacks a physical translation to the real world. In other words, having a strong why, even one that's emotionally connected, isn't sufficient to create this sort of physical vacuum effect that I referred to in the past video that would lend to creating new space in which to expand or grow with all those other elements working towards that goal. So your why, or the reason for doing something, your desire, requires a physical or a structural commitment in order to make energy and resources flow to support it. Note that this is not the same thing as making a New Year's resolution to yourself. Commitment might seem like a scary thing to some folks, and really it just has a negative connotation in regard to its aspect of risk or a potential loss that's incurred if your commitment is not upheld. This is really the same thing as having skin in the game, or what I've tended to observe in most people is that we all tend to figure things out only when we must do so. Once new parents have a new child that's brought into the family, or a new pet that's a dependent that they have to take care of, that outlines a whole new set of commitments that they didn't have prior to that event. In the example of someone who buys a new home and takes out a mortgage for part of the purchase price now has to make payments in order to avoid foreclosure and losing their home. Another example would be a student in college that if they're required to have student loans to put them through school, then they now have a commitment to graduate on time and secure employment before their loan repayment begins. And while we may tend to think of commitment as being this negative or heavy or scary kind of thing, it really has a tremendous positive aspect of it, which is summoning internal and external resources to help us manifest something new or experience something new, including those resources which we may not previously have even known consciously. Considered an aspect of support or guide rails that are aligned toward your desired intention. This commitment enhances your focus centered on the desired outcome. It prioritizes how you spend your time, your energy, your money, and it creates a sense of urgency which fuels action related to your goal or your desired outcome. Another thing I've observed about commitment in this regard is that it engages your mental and creative capacities in ways that likely would never have been stimulated in such a way were it not for the risk of loss. You begin to train your subconscious to look for opportunities which match or support the intended goal you have. This is in a similar way to how you tend to notice something new. Let's say you buy a new item of clothing that you like or a new bag or something, and you begin to notice other people that have that same product that you likely wouldn't have paid much attention to before until you have it in your own experience. We're so good at pattern matching. We look for not only things that support our belief systems, confirmation bias, but we also look for things that support something that we are committed to, these solutions in this sense. For me, this really conjures up a lot of the same process of be, do, have, which is the opposite of a conventional approach, have, do, be, that many of us are, I think, imprinted by in one way or another. That idea that, well, once you have the desired goal or outcome, then you can do what a successful person does and ultimately be a success, which is really backwards. The be, do, have model is a way of committing to a new way of being. And when you start to committing to a new way of being internally, that drives new ways of doing and ultimately down the road having. So this is not fake it till you make it. This isn't demonstrating anything externally. This is being authentically committed to a new process internally. And your way of growing through this commitment of expanding in this be, do, have sequence builds in iterative cycles. So what are some new ways of being that we can adopt that move us in the direction of our desired goal, our why, our desired outcome? This really comes in the form of these commitments. So what are some examples of commitments we can make which support our why or our desired outcome? First and foremost is incorporating some other person or entity for accountability outside of ourselves. Whatever it is we're doing, setting appointments in our calendar to be held with the same regard of any other responsibility that we hold is a great way to start. This might involve meeting with a personal trainer at a given frequency. It might be publishing work on a platform at a fixed schedule. It may be pledging a commitment of time to volunteer work at an organization of your desire. In the video on expanding your capacity for growth, I referred to stretch goals, and there can be an example of doing so financially. In that video, I suggested a target of 20% more, whatever the stretch goal is that you're looking to accomplish. For any goal that's quantifiable, that would certainly apply for a financial commitment, targeting something that's 20% more than what you believe you could accomplish with your current capabilities. And before doing that, I think it's very useful to recall scenarios in the past where you've already achieved a stretch goal, or perhaps one was placed upon you. Think of a time where perhaps you had taken out a loan for an advanced education, or started a new job, or moved somewhere and rented a new place, or purchased a home or car, or you had the responsibility of caring for another person, whether it was a dependent or a family member. In each of these cases, there was an element of risk and accountability that you took on to accomplish or achieve all of these things. And in most cases, if not all cases, there was always an element of uncertainty of how you would be able to accomplish or handle all these things or come up with the time or the money or the energy to meet all of these commitments. So what I'm referring to here in a financial stretch goal, this is not the same thing as reducing expenses to free up space in your budget. Now, cleaning up waste is a good thing to do, so definitely do it, but that's not what we're talking about here. Cleaning up waste in your budget would be the same thing that I mentioned in the manufacturing analogy where you would correct inefficiencies in a manufacturing line. It's a good thing, definitely do it, but it's not the same thing as doubling the capacity of the manufacturing line, adding a new line or renting a larger space, and adding more staff to perform the manufacturing. So with this, I'm not advocating financial irresponsibility or being overextended, like buying a house or a car or something that you can't afford. But what I am suggesting is essential is creating a new place that your money needs to flow that it hasn't before. A great place to start with this, so as not to create a liability for yourself, would be to start a forced withdrawal to an investment account, for example. Or you could consider some structured charitable giving. The idea is that you're creating a new pathway for your resources to move that they haven't before. And in doing that, you create a new space in which to expand. So to summarize, the purpose of having an external commitment tied to your strong why or your desire is the thing that forces you to flow your time, your energy, your money, your other resources into a new space in which to expand. And this new space is what allows for all the other essential elements of growth, the proper environment, the building blocks, an action plan, and the productive action itself to be activated in a new way. This forced expansion in this regard is really the essential drive behind the entrepreneurial spirit, but it can be harnessed by anyone, not just by entrepreneurs. This is really like adding another hose to an untapped spigot in your backyard in order to water a larger garden. And in doing so, hooking up that hose, being open to see what expands at the input side of the spigot with the new hose attached. Now, it's understandable that taking on a new commitment, even for a very positive thing, something that's growth oriented, that it feels uncomfortable. It's risky, it's difficult, and might even feel possibly untenable. But it's only in this new commitment, and especially one where you're supported by an external structure that you are committing your time and resources to, that really gives you that new space to move into and grow in a way that you likely otherwise wouldn't have been able to do so. And when you do this, I encourage you really to lean into the satisfaction of all the little bits along the way, that the mere having taken a tangible step forward, looking for ways to celebrate the small steps, and absolutely appreciating yourself and other people who are aiding in your growth during this time. So I'd be curious to know what physical or structural commitment you are willing to undertake that supports your strong why or your desire. Let me know in the comments below. If you know of anyone who may benefit from what I've shared here, please forward this video to them. And if you found some value in what I've discussed today, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. It's free, it only takes a moment, and it really helps support the growth of the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in.